This is the first time that I'm speaking about it. Something that I'll never forget, actually.
Now, earlier this week, Justin was busted in Beverly Hills for running a red light. Then police discovered he was driving under the influence.
It all begins with whispers, the kind of whispers that start in the shadows, hushed tones in back rooms, and anonymous sources leaking cryptic hints. Sean Diddy, one of hip-hop's most untouchable figures, find himself at the center of a storm so immense it threatens not only his career but the very foundation of his empire. And at the heart of this chaos lies a web of betrayal, family secrets, and the kind of power plays that don't just change lives, they destroy them.
To now, we've done 3 others where we've laid out the prosecution case. This time, we're talking specifically, what is Diddy's defense? And we decided to test it with a mock jury, and it is fascinating.
It is absolutely fascinating, keeping in mind that the real jury will be sitting down to do this. The trial starts first week in May, so this is...
Let's start with the most jaw-dropping piece of this puzzle, the rumor swirling around Diddy's alleged deal with the FBI. Now we're not talking about some far-fetched conspiracy theory cooked up by internet trolls. This is real high-stakes chatter that's been bubbling beneath the surface for years. The whispers claim that Diddy, faced with mounting legal troubles, struck a deal, one that allegedly involved sacrificing his own flesh and blood to save himself. The idea is almost too sinister to comprehend, but it's exactly the kind of moral dilemma that makes the story impossible to ignore.
Well, first of all, I can only imagine how sloppy Sean Combs was with evidence when he got busted with those 2 machine guns or 3 machine guns with the altered serial numbers. So I really don't trust Sean Combs or the people around him's ability to properly cover up anything. So I envision that you're going to see a trial, payments from his Amex for flights for people, straight payments directly from his company to people.
The theory goes something like this. Justin Combs, Diddy's eldest son, somehow became a pawn in a much larger game. The specifics of this alleged arrangement remain murky, intentionally so, but the implications are chilling. Did Diddy throw his own son under the bus to protect his empire? And if so, what kind of father does that? The very suggestion has sent shockwaves through both the music industry and the public, leaving many to wonder just how far Diddy is willing to go to maintain his wealth and power. But here's where things take an even darker turn. You see, the whispers about Diddy's FBI deal aren't the only rumors haunting him for years. There's been speculation about Justin Combs' true paternity, with rumors so persistent they've practically taken on a life of their own. According to some insiders, Justin may not even be Diddy's biological son. Instead, the talk is that he could be the child of Anthony Wolf Jones, Diddy's former bodyguard and confidant. And let us tell you, the evidence fueling this theory is enough to make even the most skeptical observers raise an eyebrow.
Do you think that Diddy is actually Justin's father? I wasn't there, but...
First, there's a resemblance. People who were close to both Diddy and Wolf during their heyday have pointed out that Justin bears a striking likeness of Wolf, not just in appearance but in mannerisms and demeanor genes. Deal, a former bodyguard for Diddy who's never been shy about spilling tea, has gone on record saying that the resemblance is uncanny. While he's careful not to make outright claims, his insinuations are clear. People say he looks like Wolf. Gene once said in an interview, "I wasn't there, so I can't say for sure, but damn, it makes you think, doesn't it?" Then there's the timeline. Misa Hilton, Justin's mother, and a celebrated fashion designer in her own right, was romantically involved with Diddy in the early 1990s. However, sources close to the situation have hinted that Misa and Wolf were also well acquainted during that period. Could it be that Justin's conception was a result of a relationship that Diddy was either unaware of or chose to ignore for the sake of public appearances? The possibility hangs in the air like a loaded question daring anyone to answer.
Beat up till she got up under the... Beat up literally till she tried to run up under the car.
Wow.
Of course, Diddy has never publicly addressed these rumors, and why would he? Acknowledging them would only add fuel to an already raging fire. But his silence hasn't stopped the speculation from growing louder, especially in light of recent events. Justin's DUI arrest earlier this year was a major turning point, not just for him but for the entire Combs family. The incident brought long-simmering tensions to the surface, with Misa Hilton taking to social media to air her grievances in a series of scathing posts. In one particularly pointed message, Misa seemed to lay the blame for Justin's trouble. Squarely at Diddy's feet, a fish rots from the head down. She wrote, implying that Diddy's leadership, or lack thereof, had set a poor example for their son. She didn't stop there, calling out Diddy's lifestyle, his business ventures, and even his choice of collaborators. While Misa didn't explicitly mention paternity rumors, her comments added fuel to the fire, suggesting that there's far more going on behind the scenes than anyone outside the family could possibly know. And let's not forget the elephant in the room. Anthony Wolf Jones himself was once a towering figure in Diddy's inner circle. Wolf was known for his loyalty, his street smarts, and his willingness to do whatever it took to protect the bad boy empire. His demise in 2003 marked the end of an era, but his legacy lives on, not just in the stories people tell, but in the unanswered questions he left behind. Was Wolf more than just a bodyguard to Diddy? And if so, what does that mean for the family Diddy has spent decades building?
If you don't mind me asking, right, because I know you and Big Jake was real cool, but I want to ask you, the day he got killed, can you give me the backstory behind that?
I don't mind at all. By the way, shouts out to Big Jake, you know one of my sons is named after...
Suge Knight, never one to hold back, has recently added his voice to the mix, dropping cryptic hints about Diddy's alleged FBI deal and the paternity rumors in a recent podcast. She suggested that Diddy's current legal troubles are just the tip of the iceberg. Puffy knows what he did. Suge said, his tone dripping with disdain, and he knows who Justin really belongs to. Whether Suge is speaking from a place of genuine knowledge or calculated malice is anyone's guess, but his comments have only intensified the spotlight on Diddy's already fraught situation. The irony of it all is almost poetic. For years, Diddy and Suge were locked in a bitter feud, their rivalry fueling the infamous East Coast-West Coast hip-hop war. Now, as Diddy faces a fight of his life, it's Suge who's sitting back, watching it all unfold from the relative safety of a prison cell. And if Suge's recent remarks are any indication, he's more than happy to see Diddy squirm.
It always feels like that, especially before federal trials, because you get to read the indictment, you have not all, but you have much of what the prosecution is going to be.
But there's something additional.
Of their strategy.
There's something additional here. You're right that they hear about all of that, but what they're also hearing is these other lawsuits that have been filed by all these civil law firms.
As the rumors continue to swirl, one thing is clear. The facade of Diddy's perfect life is cracking, and it's only a matter of time before the full truth comes spilling out. Between the allegations of betrayal, the questions about Justin's paternity, and the mounting legal troubles threatening to engulf him, Diddy is facing a reckoning unlike anything he's ever experienced, and while he may have spent decades building an empire, the foundation beneath it is starting to look dangerously unstable. But if you think this is where the story ends, think again, because behind every scandal, every accusation, and every whispered rumor, there's always more lurking just beneath the surface. And when it comes to Shaw Diddy Combs, the deeper you dig, the darker it gets. And just like that, the floodgates burst open. What was once a carefully curated empire polished to a mirror shine gleaming with untouchable prestige was now drowning in accusations, legal chaos, and secrets so explosive they could turn the entire industry on its head. The cracks in Diddy's fortress hinted at for years were now gaping fissures, and as the walls came crumbling down, the fallout was impossible to contain. If you thought we had reached the peak of this saga, buckle up, because this is where things spiral completely out of control.
You're hearing about all these videos with celebrities, not going to be part of the criminal case. And
the Cassie video.
The Cassie video is going to be part.
Right.
We're going to get to that in a minute with the jury. But what we did was, number one, we showed them the prosecution's case from one of our documentaries. And then we showed them the defense from the current documentary.
Let's talk about the legal inferno currently engulfing Diddy. The man who once branded himself as a mogul, a visionary, a cultural architect now finds himself at the center of a federal investigation so sweeping it could redefine the very fabric of his legacy. And it's not just about the charges themselves, racketeering, trafficking, and the kind of allegations that make headlines scream. It's about what those charges represent. A decades-long game of smoke and mirrors finally unraveling. The raids on his properties in Los Angeles and Miami. That wasn't just law enforcement doing their due diligence. That was the moment the house of cards began to collapse.
Racketeering case, and they don't really talk about that. Diddy's attorneys, Sean Combs' attorneys, they stay away from the racketeering part of this. They are focused solely on the trafficking part of this case.
Inside those sprawling mansions, federal agents uncovered a treasure trove of evidence items that, when pieced together, paint a picture of a man whose private dealings stand in stark contrast to his public persona. Sources close to the investigation claim that the materials seized include everything from incriminating documents to devices loaded with content that raises more questions than answers, and while Diddy's legal team scrambles to downplay the severity of these findings, the sheer scale of the operation speaks volumes. This wasn't some routine knock and search. This was a coordinated effort to dismantle not just a man, but an empire, and here's where things veer into territory no one saw coming among. The items reportedly confiscated were handwritten notes, personal journals, and financial records that point to years of behind-the-scenes dealings with figures whose names are now being whispered in corridors of power. These aren't just any names either. We're talking about industry heavyweight shadowy investors and even individuals with ties to international operations that could, if true, blow the lid off a much larger scandal. The connection between Diddy's empire and these unnamed players is murky, but it's enough to make federal agents double down on their investigation. What exactly were these documents hiding, and why was Diddy so desperate to keep them out of public view?
There has been no profit motive involved at all. The last word is profit.
He's already rich.
So whether or not he had the freak offs or he did whatever.
Follow the money.
Well, there is no money
Exactly.
to follow. I mean, the freak offs aren't okay, the way in which I read it, it's not an illegal business. A freak off is a freak, or whatever these things are, right? But the profit, that last word actually got my attention because I was like,
I like adding another layer of intrigue. Reports have surfaced that some of the seized items directly linked Diddy to a series of alleged payouts made to silence potential whistleblowers. These payments, described as hush money by insiders, reportedly span over a decade and involve individuals from a range of backgrounds, former employees, collaborators, and even high-profile acquaintances. The amounts in question, although not publicly disclosed, are said to be staggering if these claims hold water. They don't just point to a pattern of misconduct, they suggest a deliberate effort to cover his tracks at all costs. And if that's true, the question becomes how many people were complicit in this cover-up, and how high does this go? But perhaps the most shocking revelation comes from sources claiming that several of the confiscated devices contained encrypted communications between Diddy and a network of trusted insiders. These messages, which are now reportedly being analyzed by federal authorities, could hold the key to understanding the full scope of the allegations against him. The use of encryption alone raises eyebrows. Why go to such lengths to secure these conversations unless they contain information too damning to risk exposure? And while Diddy's legal team has dismissed these claims as baseless speculation, the fact that investigators are poring over this material suggests they've found something worth pursuing.
Now, the big thing that is really interesting, and it's going to be a big problem for the defense if you look at this mock jury, the Cassie video. He is not being prosecuted for it. That's a state crime in California, and the statute of limitations is run. But I am telling you, that video was thunderous for a bunch of these jurors.
What's even more telling is a response, or lack thereof, from some of Diddy's closest allies. Figures who once publicly proclaimed their loyalty to him have remained conspicuously silent as the scandal unfolds. Industry insiders have noted that several of Diddy's longtime collaborators have distanced themselves in recent months, refusing to comment when approached by the media. Whether this is a calculated move to avoid being dragged into the storm or a sign that they know more than they are letting on remains unclear. But one thing is certain, the walls are closing in, and Diddy is running out of people willing to stand by him. What makes this even more damning is the timing. These raids come on the heels of mounting civil suits that have already rocked Diddy's image. High-profile lawsuits filed by individuals who allege years of exploitation and coercion have cast a long shadow over his career. And while Diddy's lawyers have dismissed these claims as opportunistic cash grabs, the court of public opinion is far less forgiving. The whispers of misconduct have turned into a deafening roar amplified by the media frenzy surrounding every new revelation. It's as if the universe itself has conspired to strip away the layers of artifice, leaving only the raw, unvarnished.
You know, I feel like we're almost becoming numb to the lawsuit after the lawsuit after the lawsuit. And do all of the allegations against Combs so far that we've seen make the claims here, these new claims, do you think it makes it more or less true? In other words...
But let's not forget the collateral damage to the people caught in the crossfire of Diddy's unraveling. Chief among them is Justin Combs, a young man who, through no fault of his own, has been thrust into the spotlight in the most brutal way imaginable. The fallout from his recent arrest has been nothing short of catastrophic, not just for him but for the entire Combs family. And while Justin has remained publicly silent, the implications of his predicament are impossible to ignore. His mother, Misa Hilton, has made it abundantly clear that she holds Diddy responsible for the choices that led Justin down this path. Her public condemnation of Diddy's parenting and her refusal to shield him from accountability have only added fuel to the fire.
Misa claims she's not protecting Diddy anymore. She didn't go into detail on what she meant, but she vowed to protect all of Diddy's children from his karma.
And then there is a paternity bombshell. A revelation so seismic it threatens to reshape the narrative entirely. The growing speculation that Justin may not even be Diddy's biological son has sent shockwaves through the industry. While Diddy has yet to address these rumors directly, the silence speaks volumes. Every day that passes without a denial only strengthens the whispers, turning them into something louder and more insistent. And for Justin, the implications are devastating. Imagine waking up one day to find your very identity, the foundation of who you are, called into question. It's the kind of betrayal that cuts deeper than any legal battle or any public scandal.
How your son look like your best friend? If he like it, I love it.
The drama doesn't stop there. Let's talk about the broader implications of these revelations. If Justin isn't Diddy's biological son, what does that mean for the legacy? Diddy has spent decades crafting this. He is a man who has built his brand on the idea of family loyalty and generational wealth. His children have been central to his image, featured prominently in glossy magazine spreads and social media posts designed to project an image of unity and success. If that image is revealed to be a facade, the impact on Diddy's brand could be catastrophic. We're not just talking about a hit to his reputation. We're talking about the potential collapse of the entire Combs dynasty, and yet even as his world crumbles around him, Diddy seems determined to fight back. His legal team has adopted a scorched earth strategy, filing counterclaims and issuing statements that border on defiance. They insist that Diddy is a victim of a coordinated smear campaign orchestrated by individuals with ulterior motives. But here's the thing. The more they push back, the more they push back. The more it seems like they're trying to plug holes in a sinking ship, the more the evidence against him is piling up, and no amount of PR spin can change the fact that the walls are closing in.